It's Wednesday, September 25. Good afternoon. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. For those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com, a special welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. There was a slight increase in activity at the capital's main transport hub, the Halfway Tree Transportation Center, this morning. A few Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC buses, came through the facility as some drivers continue to stay off the job because of threats made against them. In the meantime, taxis continue to fill the gap. TVJ's Milton Walker reports.
It was slow going this morning at the Halfway Tree Transport Centre, where there was just a trickle of the familiar big yellow buses. At 9 o'clock, the JUTC told TVJ News that it had deployed 101 buses from its three main depots. 32 buses were dispatched from the Spanish Town depot. A similar number were deployed from its Rockfort facility, while 41 buses were released from its Portmore garage.
This morning, the buses came out, be it that, it was not in the full capacity. However, we have been getting buses so far from all three depots.
The low numbers were the result of JUTC drivers being reluctant to come on the road because of threats issued against them.
We're driving in fear out here now because the situation really gets so bad on us. Because we have to drive and look if there's somebody attack us as a driver.
The JUTC has been reassuring drivers that adequate security measures have been put in place for their safety.
The security forces are placed on some of the buses, not all, 100%. However, the death of anyone, is regrettable. And we regret the passing of the driver, the taxi driver. We regret the passing of our staff member, driver that was killed. We're asking for calm. We're asking that, good sense prevail.
Passengers were relieved the JUTC buses were back on the road.
I got one with a new AC bus and there was a soldier who did spot check and it was very nice and comfortable.
Where are you coming from?
Greater Portmore.
In the parade in downtown Kingston, taxis were seeking to fill the gap left by the JUTC's meager deployment.
Well, we have to do everything to help the people at all costs, you understand? So we just try to do it to make the people get to work, keep the thing clean, keep the thing calm, and make it work.
But not all routes were being serviced by the taxis. It appears taxis were working mainly on the Portmore routes.
You've been here long? What bus?
A good time, for about 20 minutes now.
And what bus are you waiting on?
47.
Is this a kind of normal waiting time for you? Or?
Yeah, sometimes 47 really take long, but this one is very long today.
Meanwhile, one man took a dim view of the withdrawal of service.
I think it is a sabotage, for this government. I think it's a sabotage for this government because people did all the while. Everybody in this country fear them life beyond to the crime in this country. But over 2 days now, the government will lose a whole of revenue. The country will go down. I don't know if it's because the government pay off the IMF and them things they so till this bus company is sabotaging. Because most people say it's a PMP bus company because Peter Phillips when set up this bus company for 98 and so.
But you don't think the drivers have a real fear for their lives, sir?
I think so, yes, but everybody have a fear in this country because this country is a crime-prone country. So work still have to go on, the country still have to go on. So doing that now, it just makes matters worse for the economy and the country and for everybody.
The JUTC says it hopes to increase its deployment before the end of the working day. Milton Walker, TVJ News.
Now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has given directives to the Minister of National Security and the security forces to take firm action to deal with any threat to the country's economy, public order and safety. It follows the widespread ripple effect of Tuesday's chaos in the transport sector. There were threats of violence to staff and property at the Halfway Tree Transport Center and to drivers of the JUTC after the stabbing death of a taxi operator on Monday night and the subsequent shooting death of a JUTC driver. In a release Tuesday night, Mr. Holness said the incidents should be thoroughly investigated and those responsible feel the full force of the law. The Prime Minister says that should also include persons who misuse social media to create panic in the wake of the incidents. Now, in the meantime, Mr. Holness is assuring the drivers of the JUTC that the necessary measures will be in place to ensure their safety and security. And the business community has also been severely impacted by the chaos in the transport sector. President of the Jamaica Employers Federation, David Wan, confirmed that a large number of employees were absent because of transportation issues.
I don't have industry-wide data, but one company which I'm intimately familiar with, 40% of the employees couldn't get in on time or couldn't get to work at all. 40% of one company. So that's anecdote. For the industry-wide, I don't have any hard data, but we had many reports.
Mr. Wan told TVJ News that the Federation should have the details in a few days following a survey which they'll conduct to ascertain the impact of the fallout. The state-owned Jamaica Urban Transit Company's buses rolled out this morning, as you heard in a report earlier, after withdrawing their services yesterday. Now here is TVJ's Kirk Wright with an update. And we don't have that story just now, but we'll take a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us, we'll have more stories after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news. Now, as you heard earlier, more Jamaica Urban Transit Company buses rolled out this morning after withdrawing their services yesterday out of safety concerns. Here's TVJ's Kirk Wright with an update.
JUTC buses are out again after drivers withdrew their services yesterday. But the rollout this morning has been slow. We understand that still a noticeable number of drivers have called in sick. At 7 this morning, we left Halfway Tree, journeyed along Constant Spring and Dunrobin roads, and no JUTC buses were spotted until we got to Duhaney Park. This bus was almost at its maximum when it got to that location. Some passengers who boarded initially were asked to take another bus. This morning, as promised, the police were on some buses, at least on the ones we saw.
What you're seeing now is a joint deployment of JCF and JDF officers, all from the perspective of ensuring greater safety of the traveling public, as also all public passenger operators, JUTC, taxi operators generally.
We asked a passenger if the police presence on buses made him feel any safer.
Well, not really, but is that sustainable? Can the JCF afford to put a policeman on each of the 400 buses?
Another man questioned the presence of the police on buses.
What do you feel about police being on the buses? How do you feel about that?
Not too bad, but it's supposed to be in plain clothes.
We can respond in many different forms. The JCF usually respond in many different forms, whether overtly or covertly.
Assistant Commissioner Calvin Allen did not say how long police will be stationed on the JUTC buses.
Our service is perpetual. The service of the forces is perpetual. We are here to serve and to give that sense of reassurance both to the commuting public, to the operators of the public transportation generally. So whatever we have to do to ensure that that presence is kept, we are prepared to do it.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Floyd Green, is calling for a restriction on the use of drug resistance, known as AMR, in animal products. We have the details in this report.
Resistance is starting to complicate the fight against several diseases.
That assertion by State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Floyd Green. Mr. Green was speaking at the 25th staging of the CAMVET seminar under the theme Registration and Control of Veterinary Medicine, held at the White Sands Hotel in Trelawney on Tuesday. He explains that the use of drug resistance, or antimicrobial resistance, AMR, poses a serious threat to global public health.
AMR also threatens the effective prevention and treatment of an ever-increasing range of infections in humans and in animals caused by bacteria, parasites, viruses, and fungi.
He further explains that AMR causes complications in various diseases.
According to the WHO, in 2016, approximately 490,000 people developed multi-drug resistant tuberculosis globally. And drug resistance is starting to complicate the fight against several diseases, including HIV and malaria in humans, and a myriad of diseases in animals.
AMRs are microbes usually used in animal products. However, Mr. Green says in order to reduce its negative impact, the use of AMRs must be restricted.
We must understand and we must agree that regions affected by the highest levels of AMR should take immediate actions to preserve the efficacy of the antimicrobials that are essential in human medicine by restricting their use in animal production.
The National Water Commission, NWC, expects to write off over $150 million worth of bad debt in some inner-city communities which have been worse affected by water restrictions. At a press conference Tuesday morning, the NWC explained that it's one of several measures to address the water crisis resulting from dry conditions island-wide. We have more in this report from Krista Campbell.
$50 million in bad debts written off by the National Water Commission so far. At a press conference Tuesday morning, the NWC explained that the write-off is for customers in inner-city communities who have not been getting water for some time, mainly because of prolonged dry conditions. Residents have been protesting out of frustration with the absence of the commodity, some complaining that water schedules outlined by the NWC are not being followed.
Persons on near the ends of the network, for example, can only be served when others who are nearer to the source have already been supplied. And the persons who are nearest, when they continue to use the supplies to fill their tanks, may not have left enough water in the network to get to the persons who are further along. In the instances where the network, for example, is drained of the adequate supplies, it also means that persons who may be at any slight elevation relative to another community may not have enough water pressure in the line to serve them well.
NWC Corporate Communications Manager Charles Buchanan says ongoing road work is also affecting water supply in areas like Constant Spring, West Kings House and Don Robin roads. Power supply, pipeline breaks and other issues, he says, are out of the NWC's control, also disrupt service. And while weather forecasters expect more rain in the coming month, they warn it will not be enough for the NWC to lift the current restrictions.
The models are saying that the rainfall figures will still be below the norm. Yes, we'll get more rain, but it is still expected to be less than normal rainfall.
Minister responsible for water, Pernell Charles Jr., wants residents to conserve and teach their children to do the same.
Reusing the water used to wash plates, to wash clothes, and doing that, using that water to wash your car and water your plants and other things instead of using water straight from your pipe.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the NWC concedes that it's difficult to ensure that persons follow the prohibition notices which restricts the use of water other than for basic purposes. The notice is usually issued during periods of low rainfall and dry or drought conditions. However, the NWC says while it's hard to monitor persons, it has seen improvements.
Monitoring through the resources of the JCF is very limited, and we at NWC would do our own monitoring by virtue of when we go out and visit people's home. But in part, we do believe that there have been adjustments in behavior. In some instances, people are not washing their cars every week or every day as they would have accustomed to. So those are positives.
NWC President Mark Barnett was speaking at a press conference in Kingston on Tuesday. And residents of Walton Park in St. Andrew continued to agitate for water in their community. The residents took their protest action into a second successive day on Tuesday. They say their lives are being inconvenienced as they continue to go without water for close to a month.
Sometimes we get the water, we see dirty water coming out. It's not all the time it's clean. We cannot drink that. We have to use all the bottle of this and bathe. How can this bathe a person like all me? Because my body big. Yeah, we need water in the community. For the children, them have them nice shower. the mother, the parents, people have to go to work, so we need water.
So we never can take the water, be it things are broke out power, but we can't live so over a month and
And it's time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at liver spots.
It naturally lives on the skin, and it usually lives within the hair follicle, by the hair follicle itself, where the oil-producing glands are. It's actually not into the bloodstream, even though it can, in severe cases, when we're using creams alone, we will have to use tablets. It's not that the fungus is into the blood while we're using tablets. It's just that we need a higher concentration.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Avoid the sun between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. This is because the sun's rays are most intense during this time. Use sunscreen 15 to 30 minutes before going outdoors. Apply a broad spectrum sunscreen that provides protection from both UVA and UVB light. And cover up. Wear clothing that covers your arms and legs and a broad-brimmed hat, which provides more protection from the sun.
And that wraps up the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Please join us at 7 for the Primetime News package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.